What is up, Ridge Runner Nation, and welcome back. We are back. I am back after a couple of shows away. It feels like it's been forever since I've done one of these. Here to talk about all things Burning River 100 with Jason Rupe, the final finisher from this year's race. Toughed it out on a day where a ton of people DNF'd due to a whole bunch of issues. There was a ton of rain out there on that course that day, and it really just made things super nasty and sloppy. I fixed way too many feet at Pine Hollow, and JD's were the only ones I signed up to do that for. So we're so stoked and grateful to have Jason on. I'm surprised we actually haven't had him on earlier. He's a great runner, lives just outside of Zanesville and trains there. I used to see him on Strava all the time when I lived more out that way. But Jason, how are you doing tonight?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we'd love to have you on the show. My name is Cam Wrench. I'm the sixth man of the nation. As always, I am joined by the lovely John Dolovacki III. John, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just fine today. I'm recovering a little bit. Just happy to hear about Jason toughing it out. So I'm excited for that. Jason, what are you drinking this evening with us?
I'm having a Founders all day vacay. It's a session wheat ale.
Nice. I think I've had that one once before. Tonight I'm rocking some Athletic Brewing Company, the Golden, the Upside Dawn. I've been liking these a lot lately. They've been pretty delicious. Cam, how about you?
So I also went with a NA option, probably one less fun, but a Bundaberg ginger beer and a diet because I grabbed the wrong box in the grocery store.
Oh, so you're not dieting on purpose then?
No, not on purpose. Okay. Never on purpose.
I was like, you're a runner, right? That's the point. You can eat more.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that said, we're just going to go ahead and dive on into it. Jason, tell us, what were your thoughts going into Burning River 100? What did your preparation look like for the race? Where was your mindset? I assume you didn't imagine, what your finish was going to look like prior.
No, I wasn't expecting to be dead last, but I'm usually towards I don't know, if there's a 30-hour cutoff, I tend to be towards the end. I mean, 27, 28-hour mark. That's kind of where I fit in those races. But yeah, it's always a hot one. It seems like every year you hear stories about Burning River being really hot, and we checked the weather the night before and didn't see the 4 hours of rain that we ended up getting that morning. That really kind of, I think, threw a lot of people. I know it did me. And I don't know, I was only maybe a half a marathon in, and I already had like chafing issues starting. So the struggle bus started pretty early that day, and it just continued to kind of snowball as it went.
And the rain was the big thing that it felt very surprising. Nobody ever thinks of rain when they think of Burning River. It's a hot race, like that's its reputation. And I don't know if rain was in the forecast. I know I showed up and I didn't check the forecast at all, as something my girlfriend will know I always don't do. But going into it, did you expect there to be rain? Did you just not expect it to be as bad? Was it just like, I can just push through this? I mean, what was your plan for that specifically?
I brought a rain jacket and a poncho. I mean, I was kind of prepared because I've been in some ultras where there's been a lot of rain. But with looking at the forecast, I remember it was like the night before, it was like a 40% chance at 7 that morning. Then it was like smooth sailing the rest of the day. I think there was a percentage Sunday morning at some point. But yeah, it wasn't on my radar at all going into it. And when it started raining, it was like before the first aid station, it was raining pretty good. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to last long. And then we were probably 20 miles in, it was still raining. I thought, what is going on here? Somebody missed something.
Yeah, because I think they said it was going to be a dry course the day before at the event.
Yeah.
It was not.
It got real gnarly quick.
Yeah.
And you say you've got, all this rain coming down before the first aid station. The forecast isn't looking like it's right. You've already got some chafing issues going. And what's going through your mind in that moment where you've got some gritty finishes in the past, right? And you have your race plan. This is not your first rodeo, but all of a sudden you're like, this is going to be a lot different than I imagined the day. How do you kind of pivot mentally, or what is your sort of like inner talk looking like? Are you coming up with a plan to handle everything, or you just got to like, well, I just got to deal with this?
Well, I was actually running with a buddy of mine. It was his birthday, Carl Hallenstein, and we tend to make jokes about a lot of what the negative is going on, just trying to, I guess, be uplifting to each other. But yeah, we kind of make fun of the things that are going on, even though sometimes they're not really that funny at all.
Mm-hmm. And so with that, then, the rain eventually did kind of cool off from that morning. Where were you at then, on the course? Once you're starting to look like you're coming out, you're like, okay, well, things are going to be muddy probably, but it might dry out. I need to handle this chafing, change the socks. What was
I think
that
we were
like?
around mile 25, or it was around a marathon, 25, 27, somewhere in there. I can't remember the name of the aid station, but I think it stopped raining there, and I'd started drinking pop pretty early, and I try not to drink pop that early. I try to use it, in the second half of the race. I mean, if you can get to 50 miles and not drink pop, I mean, I kind of like that philosophy, but I really needed it that day for some reason. I was kind of dragging. I guess it was kind of bonking in a way, and I remember Carl was kind of making fun of me because I was drinking pop already, and he was like, "Oh boy, this is gonna be a long one." And I had a popsicle, I think it was, at mile 27, aid station, somewhere in there, and it really kind of hit my stomach wrong. So we left it, and I was kind of like, I don't know, like I wasn't feeling it, and we kind of hiked for a while, and I kind of took care of the chafing, with squirrel's nut butter, and got that subsided. But the stomach kind of took over at that point, and I got to the next aid station. I didn't really know what I wanted. I was drinking more pop, and at that point, I knew that I was kind of in for a long, long day. No calories.
Yeah, exactly.
No running.
Mm-hmm. And when you say you started drinking the pop earlier, I know that that's a thing for me that, if it's early in a race and I'm drinking Coke, that is a red flag, right? Like I'm leaking oil a little bit.
Yeah.
When you went into the aid station, were you kind of thinking that, oh no, I need this already, or just I need this and I can't worry about it, right? Like what was when you made that decision to start drinking pop, where were you at?
I think I was wanting it more just for the carbonation. My stomach felt like it was a little uneasy, and I just felt like I needed to get like some pressure release there with a burp. And that's one of the main reasons I went to it. I mean, I wasn't really tired or anything. I just felt like I needed a little release there. And I don't know, once you start drinking it, I was looking for it, at each aid station. That's what was kind of my go-to. I was, really looking for the Coke, and I didn't really eat a whole lot off the table. I mean, I went in with spring gels, and they were fine for a while until they weren't. And I don't know, just gels in general, the texture, once your stomach starts to turn, to me, it doesn't matter what brand it is, they're just hard to get down.
Yeah, what else besides the gels then? What else were you trying to get down? Anything else? Pickles yet, or you not turned down to the?
No, yeah, that my stomach was a little bit too funky to even to go to pickle. I love pickles, but that day it was just not. It wasn't going to happen. I think at Pine Hollow on the way back, I ate like half a banana and like a little shot glass of ramen. And it was really sparse. I mean, my calories were way off that day, way off.
So when you finally got through kind of all that rain, you said you got through your nutrition was starting to be a problem. From Pine Hollow, I think is where it kind of stopped raining the first time for most people,
Yeah.
out to, the 50 mile, and then coming back. How was that leg for you, especially, when you're out on that bike path where it's kind of becomes more of a mental, I think, battle on the bike path, because you're like, oh well, this isn't fun. And you're just like, and then you could just see
Yeah,
all the people coming back.
you're kind of exposed out there. And I don't know, you could see a long way. And at points, I don't know, to me, it looked like it was uphill going to Silver Spring. It looked like it was uphill coming back. I don't know, maybe I was just kind of having a bad time there, but I was like, man, it seemed like it was uphill going out. And it seems like it's uphill going back. But we Interville ran a lot of that, just like using the telephone poles that were running down the side of the bike path there. It was like, let's run 2 telephone poles and, walk to the next one. We were kind of doing just that kind of strategy for a while. But when we got to the I think it's the Tiki aid station right there by the overpass, I got to that on the way back, and I'd sat down on the ground, and I was really questioning, like, if I had 45 miles left in me at that point. I thought, man, I don't know. With not being able to keep in calories, I mean, it just felt like it was going to be a long night.
What got you up out of that spot then, moving?
Actually, there was a couple runners that run over here in New Concord, about 20 miles from us, and they had a pacer that I'd ran with before, Tim Boggs, and he was pacing them, and they were moving pretty good when they came through. And he saw that I was kind of down on the ground and needed, I guess, his services more than they did. So he jumped in with us and paced us from Tiki to Pine Hollow. And we really needed him. I mean, he was really chatty and just kind of kept us moving. And he's an old military guy. So, I mean, he doesn't cut you much slack. Doesn't like complaining.
Nice, gotta have that. It's awesome. So you get back to Pine Hollow. It's probably dark by this point, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're not far from the next set of rain.
Yeah, we got there, and that was a long stretch. Carl, at that point, his stomach had turned, and when you have 2 people that are trying to stay together to run 100 miles, it's there's going to be a lot of highs and lows for each runner. I would say I was the weakest link probably through most of the race. And he was feeling good, and I felt like I was kind of dragging him down. I told him to go a few times, and I'd kind of go my own way, but he stuck around, and eventually I think he caught whatever I had going on, and just his stomach turned. And when we got into Pine Hollow, I remember he laid down just right off the trail there. I would say it was probably 45 minutes, and at that point I was having issues going to the bathroom. I felt like I had to pee, but I couldn't. And this had been going on for probably 20 miles. So I was trying to take in fluids. I did eat a half a banana there. Julie, my wife, got me a little bit of ramen, which I was able to get down. I think I changed shirts, and at that point we heard thundering, like right before we were getting ready to leave. I think it was close to like an hour, maybe even over an hour, that we were there just trying to regroup. And we heard thunder and kind of seen some lightning in the distance. And luckily I had a couple ponchos in my drop there, and we suited up. And that's when my youngest boy, I have 2 boys, my oldest is 20 years old. His name is Jonas, in the Marines. And my youngest one is 17, Milo. He decided to pace us for 20 miles. He left Pine Hollow with us, and he got to experience some real fun there.
And that
with,
heat lighting.
with the lightning and the rain and the mud. Oh, it was. I
Yeah,
imagine something you won't forget.
the heat lighting was definitely something I'm not gonna forget because I was in the Soleil's field over there when that lightning was happening, and I was like, I'm like the tallest thing around.
Right, right.
But
My wife was kind of nervous just about that. Just thinking like, you know, my son's out there.
got a question from Eric Anderson in the chat. He says, "Is the stomach issues an experience that you've had to deal with before in ultras?"
Yes. I've. I don't. It just seems to be a roll of the dice. I mean, this is my third 100 this year, and I had one where I had some issues similar to this, and I had one where I was pretty good almost to like 70 or 80 miles for a hit. I mean, sometimes I can get through a race and not have it, and sometimes it's early and sometimes it's late. I don't know what the recipe is. I've tried different drinks, different gels. I don't know. I mean, but yeah, I've experienced this before. So I mean, I knew it was going to be a long battle, and sometimes it seems like when I get into a stomach battle like that, I never really come out of it. But it seems like you learn to deal with it as you're going. Like what I can use. I mean, just a little bit of water and a little bit of Coke. I mean, I'm not running, but I'm moving. I was able to keep moving, but I mean, I didn't have the calories to run really. I mean, when we were running, it was 50 yards, if that. There was a lot of power hiking.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it would have been like after once you got through with those. Yeah, with like you're talking about like half a banana, like and some
Yeah,
ramen, like not that's not even close to like what would I say 200 to 300 an hour.
yeah.
Like oof. Um,
Even the gel. I tried some gels later on, and I could only get like half a gel down, and I would just start like dry heaving, and it got pretty bad. My diaphragm was just sore. I felt like I was in a fight almost. I wish I was, but I mean, I just felt like I'd been beat on. My ribs were so sore by the end, and it was just from the convulsions of dry heaving. And I wasn't really getting anything up because there wasn't really anything in there. It's I tried, I think, a couple potatoes. I don't even know what aid station that was. I tried a couple potatoes, and as soon as I got the cup by my nose and I could smell them, I was like, "Oh no, I can't do this either." It was just uh, I couldn't find really anything there that I wanted to eat,
mhm.
and it wasn't their fault. It was just my stomach was it just didn't want to play that day.
So you had that like you said you did 20 miles with your youngest, right, Milo.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
17.
yeah, so you left then Pine Hollow with him, and you made it to Robinson Field area through the lovely mud fest that was Soleil's again. That kind of
Oh my.
clay that catches and sticks. And then what was it like when you got back through and back onto the trail again? More up towards Valley Picnic.
Like when we got on the towpath, it was like I remember it was raining pretty good. We got passed by a couple people there, and we were like, "Go get it, man!" They passed us, and I mean, it kind of gave us a little bit of spark to like try to run some, and we did. And, it was kind of cool. There was like toads and frogs and snakes all out on the trail there, and we moved pretty good through there. And I'm not sure at what point, but Milo, my boy, I think he was starting to get tired. And when he comes into an aid station, being a pacer, he's not like gonna get his own food and water. So I had to like kind of make sure he was getting, like, Milo, your water bottle spilled. And, you want something to eat? And of course he was like, no, I'm good. I'm like trying to check his water bottles and trying to take care of him, make sure he's not out there, doing the same thing I'm doing, not taking in calories and fluids at this point. So I got him some Mountain Dew. I think it was at Oak Hill. And he was like, I have a headache. And I was like, well, you want me to call mom and I'll have her pick you up? And at this point, I'm trying to get my phone out of the bag and like see where we are and see where I can have her pick him up, because I'm not even sure what time it was, like 3 a.m. or maybe 4 a.m. And so I texted her and I said, can you pick him up at Boatswain? And then I'm trying to do ultra math, like we're here and that's 10 miles away and we're moving at, I don't know, 20 minutes a mile. And, all that crazy stuff that you're trying to do in the middle of the night. I'm like, I think we'll be there probably around 6. So that gave him a little bit of a goal. Like, I've only got to do like 8 more miles with these jokers that are just walking through the mud. I think he thought there was going to be more running than what took place. So he did pretty much 20 miles of hiking. I don't know what his time was. He had about 7 hours, I think, on his feet with us doing 20 miles, which is a long time. But there's a lot of mud and there's a lot of hills, and we stopped several times. I mean, not just to sit down, but just to kind of regroup. Everyone was kind of struggling. But yeah, Julie picked him up, and from there, we knew we were really getting close to the cutoff at that point. I'm not sure the aid station where we came into. It was the one, I think it was Boatswain. I was 15 miles left. There was a guy there that was like really, really caffeinated. He was just really excited. And he was like, you guys are doing great. You got to do 15-minute miles from here on in to make it. And we're like, we haven't done a 15-minute mile since, like, I don't know, maybe in the front 50. It'd been a while. So we left there, picking it up. We were at interval running, and we got to the next aid station, and I believe it's the one that was closing. It was shutting down, like they had already started tearing it down. And the gal that was running it told us that we were behind. I can't remember how many minutes. And at this point, I had to go to the bathroom. And so I went to the porta-john. I was like, Carl, can you fill up my water bottle? So I get to the porta-john and there's like no toilet paper. And I'm like, oh no, of all the bad timing. And he's yelling at me like, we gotta go. And I'm thinking, I do have to go. So I mean, I'd already told my mind, like, we're getting ready to go here. And then all of a sudden I couldn't. So I was like, I had to switch gears. Like, now I'm not going to the bathroom. Now I'm having to hustle. So I caught back up with him and he hands me my water bottle. And he's like, she says we're behind. We got to average, I don't know, 12-minute miles or something like that from here on out. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So we're on trail at that point, and we were hiking like all the trail, because it was kind of gnarly in both spots. So he just takes off, just booking it. And I couldn't even stay with him. I mean, it was like, I'd see like his hat go over the next hill. And I was like, oh my goodness. So at one point I was thinking, I'll just let him go. I mean, if I make it, I make it, but I don't think I can stay with him. And, I kept running, and eventually I caught up to him, and I thought I was going to die, but I didn't.
It's a casual way to say that. I thought I was gonna die, but
I was like, oh my goodness! We just ran like 3 miles, and I can't remember the last time I ate anything. I was like shaky, and I just felt terrible. So we got on more towpath there, and we were actually able to run some more. And then we hit another section of trail that slowed us way down. I mean, when we were on the towpath, we were doing pretty good. I thought we were going to make it. And then we'd hit the sections of the trail that were mud. And it was like, we were doing 20-minute miles, and that was hustling. So the math wasn't really adding up. And we got to the last aid station, was that 5 miles out, I think it was. And the same guy that was at the boatsman aid station, the one that was really caffeinated, was there. And he was like, "You guys got this. You got to average like 12-minute miles. You got it. It's all road from here on out." And we were like, okay, we got this. So we walked the big brick hill coming out of that aid station there. We walked that big brick hill, and we got up in the housing division there, and we just started putting together runs. I mean, they weren't super fast, but we ran a good bit of it. And then you drop down that real big hill into a park, and I was like, oh my goodness, I was sacked at that point. I thought, how much further we have to go if it's going to be, long, which it ended up being a little long on our watches. The math was still like, are we going to make it in time? And it wasn't until we hit Broad Street and we're running up through there where you could see like the tent, that it hit me that we were going to make it in time. And man, it got emotional for me. I was kind of choked up. It was a long, hard fight.
Yeah, I can only imagine what that was like. Especially to see it with minutes to spare. That finish line.
Yeah, I think it was like, I don't know, 4.5 or 5 minutes, something like that. We were like 29:55 and change or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so let's take it back to the boatsome aid, where you're told, there's what's ahead of you, right? It's an out and back course, and like, well, you got to average 15-minute miles, and you said, I know you were doing ultra math, so maybe this don't add up, but they're like, well, I haven't run a 15-minute mile since one of the first 50, right?
Right.
What are you thinking to yourself in your head there? And then what's your actual physical strategy to deal with that? Because, there's plenty of people that've been like, well, can't run 15-minute miles. Give me a chair. I'm calling my wife, like,
Right.
But you were like, you heard that. And, well, I can't do that. Like, let's leave the aid station and see.
Well, we actually we passed a couple guys that were coming into that aid station, sort of the same time we were. And I left because I was dropping Milo off with his mom. And Carl said that one of the guys that was there, he knew that area. And I mean, I've ran there before, but I don't know the names of all the trails. I don't know the area well. But he said, like, oh, the guy that was telling us what we had to average, he said, well, we got Mingo coming up. And he's like, it's going to be terrible. Like, the trails there are going to be terrible. And to us, I mean, we knew it was going to be muddy, but I didn't know like how muddy, or I know we went through there earlier, but I couldn't remember at that point, how hilly it was or any of that. So we just went for it. I mean, Carl kind of carried us there through that. I mean, he was the lead horse for sure. And I was just kind of trying to hang on to what he had going on. But once we got to the road, I think there was a lot of relief. I knew I could run on the road versus being in the mud and on the trail. I mean, even as exhausted and calorie depleted as I was, I knew that I could, do 12 to 15-minute miles on the road. On the trail, it just wasn't happening. Just not the shape I was in, not the shape the trails were in.
Yeah. And so once you get back on the road, then, and you start putting those miles together, are you doing anything else? Like, well, now that I'm on the road and the running part's easier, this is what I'm gonna eat, or I'm gonna try to drink. You said, you were shaking it. You did not have enough food going in. Did that change at all, or were you just like, well, I'm on the road and I'm running and I'm just going to keep doing just that. And we're going to see if I can make it there in time.
I was getting burnt out on Coke because I drank it so long. I think anytime you do a 30-hour race, no matter what you're eating or drinking, Tailwind or eating gels, I think you just get burnt out on, whatever it is that you're doing for that length of time. So Julie actually had a Powerade that I drank some of. It was like a blue Powerade, and it stayed down, and it was different. It was like, it tasted different. I thought, oh wow, it wasn't too bad. So I told Carl as we were running the next aid station, I was like, I am done with Coke. Like, I need to do something else at this point. So when we got to the last aid station there, on the towpath, I asked them if they had Mountain Dew. And the guy's like, yeah. I was like, can I have a whole can? Because I thought if I can slam a whole can of Mountain Dew, I was like, that's 170, 180 calories. I was like, that ought to be enough to run it in. So I got a whole can of Mountain Dew there and it slammed it. And then I got out on the brick road and I didn't want to litter and there's no trash can. I was like, no, I got this can I have to carry for. I ended up throwing it in someone's trash can, like up in the division, I finally found a trash can, like throw it in, but I was like, no, I got this hassle that I didn't really want at this point in the race. But yeah, I think the dew kind of gave me the kick there, along with the adrenaline and just knowing that you're smelling the barn 5 miles away. You're just kind of picking away at it.
Yeah. So we've got a couple comments from the chat. Mike Anderson says he's at work, can't stay on, but to tell you that you did a great job of grinding it out and finishing before the cutoff through difficult course conditions. He's going to tune into rest tomorrow. And Michael Gamp says, not a question, but a comment that it is so awesome how Jason and his family are always outside doing things together. Very cool. And obviously, it's, you keep talking about your wife and your son hanging out and like y'all just have this big old family affair trying to get across the line.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We like to get outdoors and get some real life experiences in.
Yeah. And so to cut back to what you were saying, as the miles are ticking away there at the end, they do seem to get easier, as you were saying, you're smelling the barn. But when you're chasing cutoffs, how does that change your mindset as they're ticking closer? I've never been, well, I accidentally ended up in that situation just once, and I didn't know I was chasing cutoffs until they told me it was over because I got lost on the course.
Yeah.
But how does the mindset change? I mean, what is like the confidence change? If like, oh, we put 30 seconds on the cutoff this mile. Are you trying to do that ultra math, after 29 and a half hours?
I had actually switched my watch over because I forgot to tell you this. At one point, we took a wrong turn. I think it was like the Indigo Lake aid station just past it. There must have been like another race or something that went on somewhere close to that. We saw a sign on the side of the road that was pointing through this field. And we started out through there and we were kind of like, this doesn't look familiar. And we ended up getting back on course. But that kind of threw my watch off to where I thought, I was kind of, 100-mile race and you're looking like, yeah, we're at mile 97. We got 3 miles to go. I was still having to do the math like, if I'm 0.8 of a mile over or a mile over. So I turned my watch down to just the time of day. And at that point, I thought, as long as we make it in by 10 o'clock, we're good. So when we were in the city there, we were running the roads, and I just kind of glanced down. I'd ask Carl, where you at on mileage, and I was kind of looking at my watch, just kind of watching through what time of day it was, just because we knew both of our watches were off. His was over too. But, yeah, I mean, mentally it was, I don't know, it was just so much going on with the ultra math, I guess is what we call it, where you're trying to break down like time of day, what time the race is ending, how many minute miles, the last mile just buzzed. It was 15 minutes. we need to pick up what we just did, run a little bit further than, we have been, run to the next car.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then got a couple more questions for you here about Burning River, but you said earlier that, seeing the finish line, it meant a lot to you. You were starting to get choked up there because you guys really gritted this one out. What does a finish like this mean to you? And we know, checked out your ultra sign up, you've got some faster finishes, some higher place finishes, even a couple podium spots. What does this finish mean to you compared to those other races?
I guess that's probably the part that I started to get choked up about, is just mentally what I went through from Pine Hollow on was, one, I have my son there, so I'm trying to be an example as a dad, to show strength and not show weakness. And here I am, I'm like in maybe the weakest point that he's seen me. So I'm trying to be example and, not throw in the towel for him. I mean, I'm trying to keep moving. There was a lot going on in my mind, and my body was, it was not helping me out at all. I mean, when you have chafing issues and you have stomach issues and dry heaving, and I had some feet issues, which they were, way down on the list of things that were going on, not being able to pee. There's a lot of things going through your head that's saying, should I keep going right now? Or, am I like doing damage to myself? Should I throw in the towel? But I think with having Carl there and Milo there, I had enough support dogs, and he was pacing me. And you come a long way. I mean, you paid for hotels. I mean, you paid for your race. I mean, nobody wants to go home and think, if I just stuck out another hour, would have turned around. Because I've been in races before where I've been really low, and if you can stick it out, an hour or two later, sometimes things happen that, you get out of that valley. This race, that didn't happen. It was always a pretty big valley until we hit Broad Street.
Eric Anderson said it's super cool to show your kid how to tough it out. Crazy how you take the most from races that didn't go as planned. And to add to that, you even talked about it earlier at the aid station where you go into dad mode to make sure that he's got water and his food and he's good to go for his leg that he's running with you. So
he'd paced me at C&O the last 20 miles, and that race went better, but we got to a few aid stations there, and I was like, Milo, what do you want? They had like little peanut butter and jelly, those little Crustable deals. I was like, you want one of them? He was like, oh, no. And I know he likes them, and they had like Swedish fish in bags there, and I was like, how about Swedish fish? And he was like, oh, no. And he was just, not wanting to take anything from the table. And I was like, dude, so I grabbed him and like put him in his vest, and he wanted them. He just didn't want to take them, So, and then getting him water and pop, and I don't know. I think it's just part of the learning experience for him. It's like, when you get there, dude, you better fill up, because when you leave from that aid station to the next one, it could be, if you're with us, like on that night, it could be 3 hours.
Yeah, and then you had your friend Carl there running with you as well. Let's talk about that. Your decision going into try to run the whole race with a friend, and then you had mentioned a few times, trying to send him ahead, and he's not really going and doing that. Y'all are sticking together and working together. What did that add to the experience of this race, and then especially to get that finish, knowing you went through all those highs and lows, not only with the pacers you had and your son, but with Carl?
Oh, it definitely strengthens. I don't know, it makes a really strong bond there. It's one thing to run 100 miles, and there's several hundred people there that are running, and you can all get together and talk about your experiences. But when you've ran literally every inch of the race together, um, you see people at their weakest points, and you really see them for what they are. I mean, there's not a whole lot that gets hidden in that 30-hour period. And
Mm-hmm.
we've really gotten to know each other, I think, really well. This isn't the first time we finished together. We've ran, I think, 300s together and 100K together and some other ultras together. But it is difficult, I think. But it's very rewarding at the same time. You have, like I was saying earlier, you have different highs and lows because we're all different people. One guy might be feeling it, and the next guy's not. It seems like very seldom late in the race are you on the same cylinder reputation. It's always one's up, one's down, one's carrying the other. Earlier in the race, you can kind of get in a flow together, but there's just so many things that factor in when you get out there in that 70-mile range. There's a lot of things that kind of take place there.
Absolutely. Well said. John, do you have anything left about Burning River? I know we were all out there, but you were out there in a much different way than I was.
Just learning from it's a humbling experience to try it again. And so I think it's remarkable to hear a perspective chugging through the night all the way to the very last, potentially not even going to, like you didn't even know at the very end right there, that last 5 miles, if you were even going to get a buckle. If you were going to finish it all, like you would have maybe finished and said, I ran 100-mile, but I got a DNF.
Yeah, because when you're going through that neighborhood, it just seems like there's so many turns. I mean, you turn, you're like, is this the last turn? And then it's not. And then there's another turn and another turn. You're like, where is the main drag? And when you're talking 5 minutes, like if the course had been a half mile longer, if we'd have stayed in Pine Hollow another 5 minutes or been in the 8th stage, I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around 5 minutes on a 30-hour effort. It's so many areas you could have lost that 5 minutes.
I mean, 5 minutes is you having toilet paper in your pack and,
right,
not being like the Porta Johns out of toilet paper.
Right.
There's
right,
a million places, it's deciding not to change socks at an aid station or,
right.
I mean, it's totally mind boggling when you think about all the places that you can get that time back.
And that's how I've spent a lot of I don't know, since the race has been over, I'll have moments where I'll think like, wow, that's pretty mind boggling that it came down to 5 minutes. And I've seen videos like Western states where people come in with like a minute left or 2 minutes left. And it's always like really emotional and you're like cheering them on like, oh man, it's so awesome. But when you're the person that's been out there 30 hours, it doesn't feel awesome the whole time, not until you're at that finish line.
Yeah, we get that beautiful picture of you laying down. It's like, I'm done.
Yeah, I was toast at that point.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna move on now. A couple other general questions we have, and then our quick questions as always. But Jason, you've got a monthly 30-mile run streak going on. What's up with that? You want to tell us how and why you started it? If you're gonna end it, you had any close calls like Paul Barty and his run streak, doing a mile in the airport.
Yeah. I think part of it's from seeing Paul and some other people that I follow on Strava doing run streaks. Like that's where it started. I hadn't seen anyone put up like an ultra streak. I mean, I know there's probably some out there, but people I followed, I hadn't seen anybody, start anything like that. I think it was January of 2018. I signed up for the Rocks and Roots double 50K, and I did both of those, and I was running CNO in April. So I needed to keep training. So I ran, I think it was just like a round towner in March, and then went to CNO, ran in April. And then I don't know, at that point I'd had like 4 or 5 in a row. And I thought, let's see if I can keep this going. And before I knew it, I had a year in, and then Rocks and Roots had come around again. I thought, well, I'm kind of on a pattern here. So I just, before I knew it, it was, I think I have 42 months now. And I had some close calls. There's been a couple of them where I think ran on like the last day of the month. I know I ran Tuscazor, I think it was 2 years ago, and I had, my knee was really jacked up after that race. And I did a lot of walking that month. And I thought, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get an ultra in this following month. I ended up getting one in. I think it was really slow and probably a lot of walking, but yeah, I plan to try to keep it going as long as my health will allow, Lord willing.
Awesome. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's really great.
So many 30-mile runs or more.
Mm-hmm. How do you kind of plan your month around that? I know, it seems like you're counting races to count towards those, and that's smart. You don't want to have to double dip.
Right.
But in a month where you're training, are you trying to have it X amount of weeks out from a race, or you got nothing really on the dock, or you just like 15th circle and you're like, let me get it done by then, so I'm not trying to do it on the 28th, 29th,
Well, one of my buddies was asking me about that. Justin Wickham was asking me when I was going to do my ultra in August, because we planned to do one. My birthday's in September, and his birthday is like the day before mine, and we planned on running our age on our birthday. So I'll have to run like 47 miles the 3rd of September. So he's like, somewhere between now and then, you're going to have to, when you going to do your ultra? And I was thinking, it's probably going to have to be like a mid-month, because I'm going to need a couple weeks to heal up from this. But I work weekends sometimes. So, I mean, sometimes I'll look at like my weekend I have off, and, you hope the weather's good, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's really hot in the winter, like in the winter months. Sometimes I've been in snow or rain. It's all fun. I mean, makes for good stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned another buddy of yours, Justin Wickham, and we mentioned you're in the Zanesville area there, and the Zanesville sort of like community of ultra runners is a little more, it's than other places I've seen. It's a little more gritty, I would say. I lived up there in Nashport in Jamie Hanks' tiny house for like a month, actually. And I don't know what it is. I think maybe it had to do with the fact that I would leave that house for runs and I'd see more of any given farm animal than like cars on the road.
Right.
It was like, well, today I saw more goats than cars, not just farm animals. But tell us a little bit about that, like the community that y'all got down there, and what it's like running in that area, training.
There's not a ton of places to run around here. I run a lot of my miles at Rutgers Endurance Park, REP. Tim Rucker, he's a race director out there. He has races out there. And they allow me to run there, and that's been really beneficial to my training. Dillon is another place around here. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time there, but it has pretty good trail system. We have a trail system out by the airport called McGraw. I've ran there. It's not real big, maybe, I don't know, 8 to 10 miles of trail there. And maybe that's doubling up some trail. But we don't have near the trail systems like Columbus or like the Athens area. or the strength and numbers of, you know, the groups. The groups seem to be smaller here. And I don't know, we have a few bike trails. There's Black Hand Gorge and Zane's Landing. But as far as trail systems go that are available to me close by, there's not a ton of them. So sometimes you have to get kind of inventive if you're wanting to run an ultra around here. Sometimes it's back road loops, run to the next town and have my wife pick me up. We've got pretty imaginative on some of them. I've even had a vehicle that was in the shop and ran like a 30-mile loop to get to it before. I don't know, just kind of got to be inventive, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that, we're going to move on to our short questions here at the end. If you have any more questions for Jason, if you're listening to us, feel free to just ask those in the chat, and John will get those in there for you. But we'll go to our very first one here. Jason, what's one thing you can't leave an aid station without? We'll assume your stomach's doing okay for this.
Usually it's Coke and potato chips. I like those, are kind of my go-tos. You get your salt, you get your sugar. I've been doing spring gels lately and I like them, but I don't know. Yeah, I'd say anything off the table, it'd probably be Coke and chips.
Nice.
All right. And what's your favorite pair of shoes right now?
The Ultra Olympus, the fours, this is my second pair, and they've really treated me well. I haven't had too many issues with blisters or anything.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any pre-race rituals?
Here lately, it's just trying to get enough sleep. I like to do yoga. I like to do yoga before. Other than that, no, not really.
Yeah, I could definitely see if you had a ritual that would guarantee to put me to sleep for about 8-9 hours a night before a race. I'd want to know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. And do you have any post-race indulgences you love?
Yeah, I like a cold beer after a race. The Burning River race, I wasn't really in the mood for beer afterwards, so Carl and I had been talking about what we wanted afterwards, and I kept having this vision of a big milkshake during the race, so we stopped on the way home and I got a big raspberry milkshake from Dairy Queen. So
Nice.
that hit the spot.
Speaking of visions on the course, what's maybe your weirdest hallucination mid-race or strangest thing that you've maybe eaten or seen somebody else eat at an aid station when you're out there?
I thought I saw at Burning River. I mean, I've seen some different things. At Burning River, there was a tree that was down where the roots were up next to the trail, and I thought there was a tent there, and I had to like do a double take, and then I realized it was like the root structure of a tree. And but the craziest thing, I don't know. I mean, I've been on the trail at night where your mind kind of wanders. Where you think you see something like another person out there, but it was probably just a deer. But I don't know. I haven't really had anything too spooky, I guess, or crazy happen out there.
Always a fun question to ask because
Yeah.
some of the answers can be pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like we've got people talking squirrels and amongst other things.
Mm-hmm.
If ultra running had walk-up songs like baseball, what would yours be?
Probably Twist by Fish.
Don't have any Fish on the list yet, do we, Cam?
We don't. No, I think that's going to really round it out.
Yeah.
I think we've hit every genre now that we've got a jam band on there.
Yep.
Perfect. What we got next, Cam? I think you're muted there. Rookie mistake. You're still muted.
Absolute rookie mistake. My internet is not doing so hot either. But yeah, this is our favorite question. Usually it's our last one. I had a new one this week. We're testing that one out on you, Jason. So you get to be the first one to answer that on Ridge Runners Live. But if you could run with one person in the history of the world, even if they aren't a runner, we're going to assume they'll run with you and they'll keep your pace. Who would it be and why?
I would have to say both my grandpas, because I never met them or actually got to talk to them. So I think it'd be cool to spend some time with them and see how much I was like them, I guess.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Great answer.
Yeah, this is like the favorite questions we've ever asked. We always like this is nuts, but apparently I think Cam's really concerned about this next one if it's going to be the new favorite question. Because I read it.
It's gonna be the new favorite, not in the same way that last one was. That last one's kind of heartwarming. This one, I think you get to know a lot about how a person thinks of themselves. But so, Jason, you're in this situation. You can either fight one chicken on the first day, 2 chickens on the second day, 3 chickens on the third day, and so on for an entire year, calendar year. January 1 all the way to December 31st. And this is every day, or you can have the same amount of time period to train to fight a mountain lion. If you fight the chickens, it's just you and whatever you got on.
He froze.
But if you fight the mountain lion,
yeah,
absolutely, I know.
Yeah, so he froze a little bit. So he said, if you fight the chickens, you have nothing but your hands and clothes, but you get a sword and armor if you fight the mountain lion. So what path would you go?
Oh boy! And you're not fighting you only fighting the mountain lion once.
Once at the end of the year, you have a whole year to train.
Oh boy! I think I'd probably do the chickens daily just to build up strength. And I know it would get tougher each day, but I think the anticipation of the lion fight over a year would just be a lot on the brain. We're getting up every day and fighting the chickens. It'd be like getting up and going to work.
That is a fascinating way to put that.
That's talked about this with Michael Owen, and he was the first person I knew to say chickens, and that's what shocked me. But I can't get in the mindset of how do you wake up on day 100, fight 100 chickens, and then you still got to go about your life, and it only keeps getting bigger. I couldn't take that. I can put a picture of a mountain lion on the wall, like on the mirror, like it's Rocky IV, I'm training every day for this. I can't get up every day and go clock in and fight chickens.
So you're a mountain lion then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think with a year to train, I could get pretty good.
Yeah, especially with a sword. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that lingering, that is a good point, is just the lingering thought, like the concern. Whereas you're probably going to kill the chickens. You're not really going to, but with the lion, there's a good chance you ain't making it.
For sure.
But I've never been attacked by a chicken either, so I don't know what I'm facing there with the little mini dinosaurs.
They're not nice. And I don't think enough people know how many chickens 100 chickens is. And that's not even half of your total number.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to 365, it would be...
That's going to be a long day.
It would, especially with just barehanded.
Well, I guess you could use the chickens once they're dead.
Yeah.
Swinging them around.
Yeah.
Be like the scene from The Matrix. When he's fighting himself, or Agent Smith or whatever. You ever seen The Matrix?
Oh, yeah.
It's like that scene then. That's exactly what that is. Love it.
Mhm.
I think we got a couple of quick notes I want to plug here at the end. We've got the Cabin Fever 50K contest still going on for 3 more days ish, something like that.
I believe 3 more days.
We'll pick a winner on Saturday. Raid registration opens up on Sunday. We've also got Bob's Big Timber Backyard Ultra Prediction video dropping tomorrow. Wesley does fantastic at those. He's almost always right. So make sure you tune in tomorrow to see how right he is going to be for this weekend. I
we
can't even
got
say
some
that.
first-time listener who's just like, oh, is he good at this?
I can't even say it with a straight face,
He's the
but
worst.
he's really got like a 60% right now. I have an Excel sheet that we'll have to share sometime that I actually do the math, figure out what percentage he's right and wrong on these videos. He does decently well sometimes. It's kind of scary. So we got those exciting things coming on. If you let's see here, any last things you want to say? Thanks, sponsors or anything like that you got, Jason?
No. REP, Tim Rucker is having that race in October. Raise Ramble. He's got 13 spots left. That'll be my plan.
Check it out. We'll put the link down below for everyone.
All right.
I think that's all we got. Congrats on your like tremendously amazing. I don't even have words for that kind of finish. It's like you said, it's got to be so heartwarming and like emotional to finish at that point.
Yeah.
So congrats. That's amazing.
I want to thank my wife and my family too for all the support, because without the support, I wouldn't be able to do the stuff that I do.
Love that.
Thank you.
Love that. As always, we'll be back next week with another episode of Ridge Runners Live. And like I said, prediction video tomorrow. Cam, got anything else?
Nope, nothing to add.
Sweet. Bye, everybody.